In order for me to think about something, I have to first put it into writing. Quote from my favorite writer, Haruki Murakami. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can begin to practice learning to think through the act of writing. We're going to discuss the why you should do it, the benefits, and also the different methods. Now, in a world where everything is a click away, especially with AI and ChatGPT, and just watching different influencers feed us information constantly, we're constantly in a state of absorption of information, and we're rarely producing our own original thinking. We've lost the skill of critical thinking. Now, there are definitely ways we can use these new technological tools without completely losing our brains, and one of the ways I think is most powerful to continue to nourish critical thinking for yourself is through writing, especially physical analog writing with pen on paper. There are tons and tons of studies that show the benefits to your brain by actually placing pen to the page. Now, what are some of the reasons I would say that you should really take putting pen to paper seriously? Well, first of all, it allows you to unplug. So I know when I'm on my phone, when I'm on the computer, the urge to multitask, to look at social media is completely unavoidable for me. Maybe you're mentally stronger for me, but I find it very difficult to single task for long periods of time while I'm on my phone or I'm on my computer. But if I go for a walk with a notebook, I can completely detach, leave my phone at home, and if I just stick with an idea for long enough, amazing new thoughts emerge. If I'm just patient with a notebook and a pen and I don't allow distraction to creep in and to click to something else as I get a notification, magic begins to emerge. And it's just sitting it out past that initial half hour of sticking with the problem and sticking past it for even longer, where the magic actually happens. You're able to write in columns, you can write small little notes in the margins, you can create flowcharts. There's just so many reasons why I absolutely love writing with pen on paper to generate ideas and continue to nurture and promote and grow my capabilities for creative thinking. So some ways that we can begin brainstorming and thinking by placing ink to pages is, the first thing I really like to use is mind mapping. And this is just a really basic, non-structured mind map or flow chart. And basically you have your main idea, then you branch out. Okay, this is my mind map for this video. And then I'll say, okay, maybe why? Maybe what are some studies that show that writing improves the way that you think? What are the methods? What are the ways that we can do it? And then from there, I'll branch out. And let's say, okay, one of the things from the method was free writing. And then I have morning pages. I have just general free writing. I have free writing ideas. And so it just allows you to operate in a less linear fashion. And when you move away from linear thinking, this can nurture and promote creativity and just outside of the box thinking. So using mind maps is a really powerful way to begin thinking on paper. You don't always need to just write from beginning left to right. You can play around with your formats and with the structure of your thinking, and sometimes just this extra form of thinking or extra loosening of structure can allow for more creativity. Next thing you're going to want to do is use prompts or find the right questions for yourself. Instead of immediately just going after the answers and trying to figure out what you need to do, make sure you're asking yourself the right question. Is this something that's actually best for you? Is this actually something that I want out of life? Or if it's not something based on you, it's just an outside curiosity that you have, still asking yourself the correct question is going to be key. Finding those questions. One framework that I really like to use is Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, he likes to ask himself this question of, how can I fail before approaching any endeavor? So how can I ensure failure? And then he writes out all the things. Okay, in order to fail, this would have to happen, I would have to do this. And then instead of just figuring out, okay, what do I need to do, which can be a million things, there are specific things that you know are going to make you fail. If you do the opposite of those, you are on the best track to getting to where you need to be, or to making sure an experiment goes the way that you would want it to go. So figuring out what you don't want to happen, or what are the things that would ensure your failure in an area, is a really good prompt, question, and way to think through the best way to approach in any endeavor, in any goal that you have in your life. How can I ensure failure? And then do the opposite. So that's one prompt I absolutely love. Another thing that I love to do is to create a list of ideas. So let's say I'm starting a new creative project. Let's say I have a goal in mind and I'm not sure which direction to go into, or I want to come up with a new business idea or product that I can put out into the market. Just creating a massive list. Give yourself a goal. Maybe it's 50 ideas I want to come up with, 100 ideas I want to come up with, and sit in a room with a pen and a notebook, and don't stop until you reach that 100 lists of different ideas. So setting yourself a goal of 50 or 100 ideas in whatever endeavor you're trying to look into is a really powerful thing that you can do, and just it's a great practice of ideation in general. It allows you to, okay, you have your initial ideas that are the obvious ones, but then you start getting really creative as you're forced to pull at straws for new ideas. So that's one way to really improve your thinking, by writing as well. Another thing that will greatly just improve your thinking for the rest of your life is going back to what you would do in high school, where you would write mini essays. You have an idea, you find 3 supporting points, and then in each paragraph after that, you'll break down and further flesh out each of those points that you listed in the intro. So writing mini essays about, okay, what are my opinions about this? What are my feelings about this? What evidence have I seen in my life that I have to support this? And just exploring ideas that you find interesting, that captivate you, and just practicing writing mini essays whenever you get the chance is a great way to nourish your critical thinking. Next is a way to really visualize the ways that you plan out your days and really free up thinking by seeing everything that you need to get done. You divide your list into quadrants, where it's urgent and important, urgent, not important, not urgent, important, not urgent, non-important over here. So a column of not urgent, a column of urgent, a row of importance, and a row of non-important. So here's the things that are going to be time bound, that are urgent and important, but we can't always live here. We need to make sure that we're also making time for the things that aren't urgent but super important, things that might actually have the biggest effect on your future. Maybe it's a new project that you want to start that's on your own terms, and there's no timeline on it, but it would be super important and super life-changing if you were to get it done. So that's the non-urgent but important. You want to make sure that you're scheduling time with this. And when you place down your to-do list in these quadrants, it allows you to see, okay, you know what, maybe I don't need to do these things. Maybe I need to delegate these things and they're not that important, or need to eliminate them completely. Or maybe I've been spending all my time just urgent and not spending enough time scheduling things that aren't urgent, but are really the important things in life that are actually going to move me forward. Pick a topic, or sometimes even without a topic, and just free write. There's a habit called morning pages, where you can just write completely whatever comes to mind without judging it, and then you're able to see your thoughts and distill them, and then kind of pick them apart and continue from there. So just writing whatever comes to mind on a subject. Don't worry about the structure of it. Don't worry about the pacing, the wording that you're using. Just whatever comes out, unjudged, write it down. Another thing we can do is, if we're trying to actually discover the best action to take, or just chasing interest in better and trying to figure out what works best in this world, we can start off with using the scientific method. We can use an observation. Okay, I've observed this is happening. We can create a hypothesis. I think if I do this action for this amount of days, this is the result that I'll do. And then you put that action into practice. You actually create an experiment and take notes on the experiment while you're doing it. Okay. And then once you're done, you can look at the data and see, Was I correct about that? But by putting it down in writing, we can actually track and see the small things about how we feel about an experiment and what are the results we're getting day to day. So treating it like a scientist, like a scientific journal, is a good way to approach thinking through writing. Next thing we can do is try to think multiple steps ahead. Okay, so start with the end goal in mind, and then figure out, okay, what's one step I can do to get closer to that? Okay, well, what's the next step I can do after that? What's the next step after that? Or break it the other way around. What's the big goal? Okay, how can I make that even smaller and chunk it down to 20 years, chunk it down to 10 years, chunk it down to 5 years, and break it down into phases. And this allows you to, okay, pause for a second. I have phase 1. Let me think on it. And then you can move on to phase 2, something that you couldn't do in your own mind. But once you write it down, you can see the thought, you can pause it, and then you can take the next step and figure out, okay, what could be the next good step after that? What would I predict would be the next action that I would have to take after a year of doing this? So thinking multiple steps ahead and thinking, okay, what would the reaction of that action be? And then how would I then proceed from that is a really powerful way to approach planning for the future and just thinking multiple steps ahead in any regard, breaking it down into chunks. Last thing that I would talk about is going to be first principles thinking, which is instead of just accepting society's conventions or just your own assumptions that you have in life, really breaking ideas down to their foundation, the most basic variables, figuring out, okay, what are the most basic elements of this? And then building from that new foundational layer is how you will truly begin to think originally and not just accept the ideas that you would receive from the internet, from other people, from books you read. You really come to new conclusions on your own because you don't fully accept the full cloud of assumptions people have made that you're building off of. You start at the foundation, break down, okay, what are the most basic variables of this concept, of this idea, of this goal? And then now, what are new conclusions that I can reach from these foundations, from these definitions that I created for myself? If you enjoyed this video, here's another video that talks about taking notes in an analog fashion while watching social media.